Yo!
What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
StreetBeat
with Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
StreetBeat. Tony.
Welcome to this week's edition of Street Beat. Street Beat is your community radio program that keeps you in touch with the beat of the city. And this continues our coverage of the coronavirus epidemic. Today we are going to be talking to the City of Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards, find out what's going on in Tacoma and how the coronavirus is impacting Tacoma. We've been doing a number of different shows covering the impacts of the coronavirus, particularly on South Seattle and our diverse community. Go to our website and check it out. There are a number of different shows that you'll be able to listen to and just kind of watch how this thing has unfolded. We started our first broadcast on March 13th and talked to a member of the King County Health Department, Candace Jackson, and also several different members of our community. Since that time, we have included, along with members of our community who have tested positive for COVID-19. When we weren't hearing about this, we were having some members of our community come on and talk about how they were able to get tested, what was going on. And again, this was before there was even word out about cases of COVID-19 testing for positive in South Seattle. Well, since that time, as this has unfolded, we have come to realize that communities of color, marginalized communities, black folks have been hit harder by COVID-19 because of pre-existing systemic injustices and how that plays out. And disproportionately, in particular in the large cities right now, the number of black folks who die as compared to the percentage of black folks in the community is just it's ridiculous. So we are going to specifically talk about the city of Tacoma, and I think that I have with me now the mayor of the city of Tacoma, the Honorable Victoria Woodards. Victoria, are you there?
I am here. Good to see you, Tony B. Good
Okay,
to hear ya.
Daniel, can you turn her up a little bit for me, please? Thank you. Mayor Woodards, yes, always a pleasure to talk to you no matter what the circumstances are. I guess the first question, and there are many, and I know that there are folks out there who are wanting to hear what's going on in Tacoma. Mayor Woodards, we've been talking to folks all over the Puget Sound, from Bremerton, Edmonds, from Lacey, of course, Seattle and Renton. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to folks from Eastern Washington and Yakima and Spokane. As we isolate, one of the things at Rainier Avenue Radio we want to make sure folks know is not only are you not alone, but get a perspective of what's going on, not just within your community, but in communities all over the Puget Sound and actually all over the state. And so the first question that I would like to ask you, Mayor Woodards, I mean, you have to deal with everything from the 30,000 foot level to things that, again, are essentially right on the ground. As the mayor and as a lifelong resident of Tacoma, how is the coronavirus pandemic impacting you? I know no one could anticipate this, and then but here you are, mayor of the city that you love, in potentially one of the worst times in this country's history.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. If someone had said you're going to be mayor during the worst pandemic in history, I would have been like, "Oh, I'm not. That's not going to happen." If you would have described this situation to me, I would have told you, "You're talking about a movie." But it's reality, and so I have to be honest. It's overwhelming sometimes, but I also feel like it's an honor to be in leadership, and to be trusted in such a difficult time. You said it, and everybody who knows me knows I love Tacoma. I love this city, and I love the people who choose to call Tacoma home. And so it's been really hard, but the great thing is that at the forefront of every decision I make, I'm thinking about the people who live here. In every conversation I have, I'm thinking about how does this affect the people who call Tacoma home. And use that even in the moments, we all are stuck at home. Me and my dog, and I can't tell you that I wake up every day going, yay, I'm at home. I'm a hugger. I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. So I too struggle. But I know that what I do know is that we will get through it. I know that it will be difficult, but I know we will be stronger in the end, and we'll get through it because we're doing it together.
Well, I'm going to ask you some of what I call the 30,000-foot questions, the things that happen that people may not be aware of, but this will be great information for them to have that you still have to deal with. And part of that is in Seattle. I don't know how it's going to be distributed yet, but we're going to get some of that $2 trillion. And I know money goes to the states. And the size of Tacoma presents a different challenge. So along with having the same impacts, which we'll talk about more, as it looks right now, is that the case? That the $2 trillion that we are hearing about coming from the federal government, that money doesn't go to what, second or third largest city in the state of Washington? You won't see any of that money?
Only not directly from the federal government. So the only cities that can apply directly to the federal government for that money are cities with populations of 500,000 or more. Mm-hmm. I saw a number yesterday where I think the number is 34. It's around 30, but 34 states in the United States fit that description. Mm-hmm. Tacoma is the 104th largest city in the country. And we're not in that list. So neither Spokane. But we can still get some of that money, but it's going to go through a different process. We're going to have to apply for that money through the state. The state is already overwhelmed with response. I mean, you've heard the calls about people and applying for unemployment. You've heard the number of people who are applying for unemployment. You talk about commerce and what's going on with all the small businesses. But then to say, and now we're going to give you more money and you're going to have to work it out with all of the cities. And I have full confidence that our state will figure it out, but they're not going to figure it out overnight. And unlike the federal government, Seattle will probably get its money quite earlier than other cities will. And the other thing is that whatever they get will come directly to them. When it goes to the states, obviously it's a cost to the state to actually get it out, and they're going to have to back that cost out of what they give to the state, what they give to the city. And so that means we even potentially will get less.
So I want to just again make sense. So what does that mean for the citizens of Tacoma in regards to impact? How will they see or not see a difference in the ability for the city of Tacoma to recover from this pandemic? How does that make a difference?
Yeah, and Tony, I wish I could give you those exact details. The problem is that at the federal level, when they're giving out the money, they set the criteria, right? And they've already set that criteria for those cities over 500,000. Well, they've set a criteria, it'll come to the state, and then the state's going to set its criteria of how it gets out and how it gets used. So part of that's not been done yet. So I can't tell you exactly, I can't tell you how much we'll get. I can't tell you how we'll be able to use it. Will it go for reimbursement of some things that we've already spent? Because this obviously is also a very expensive time for us because of how we have to do business. So it will probably, hopefully some of it will go to the deficit that cities are going to face in just delivering day-to-day services, because a lot of us are funded by sales tax. And with people not spending money, that sales tax is going to go away. So that's going to leave, we anticipate in Tacoma, anywhere from $30 to $60 million budget deficit just to do everyday services. So I can't specifically say if we got to choose how to spend it. I would use it to fill the gap, so that we can continue to provide our everyday services like police, fire, garbage pickup, traffic lights, infrastructure, all of that. And then the other piece I would focus on getting our economy back to work, getting people back to work and our economy working again.
Well, let's again, I just wanted to have at least touch on that conversation, because there's so much that we can talk about. And so with the city not bringing income, these are things that you have to deal with in the long term. There's also this other aspect to it, the ground level. Let's talk about it in those terms. Again, for people who are listening from your city and being isolated, you don't always hear what's even going on in your own city. But for those who are listening from other communities who have tuned into Rainier Avenue Radio because of the resource that we're providing, and then Mayor Woodards, also our listenership has grown regionally, nationally, and even internationally. Talk about how this is impacting people in your community, who your community is, whether it be the individuals, small businesses, marginalized communities. How is this impacting the fundamental living of a Tacoma citizen?
So, Tony, let's be really clear. There isn't anyone that isn't impacted. I don't, whether you are the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world, whether you have everything or you have nothing, this pandemic is touching everyone in some way. For citizens who, for residents who live here, who have children who are out of school, who can't go to work, and are in the house homeschooling their children, to residents who are working from home. The impact is great. There is, all of our small businesses, unless you're a restaurant serving takeout, are closed. All of our schools are closed. Our parks, play equipment are closed. There are still opportunities to get out and walk, enjoy the sunshine, but social distancing is what has to happen. I was on a call the other day talking to a grandparent who said she just wanted to go see her grandson, and she can't do that. And so, you can't go to the dentist. You can't, you can go to the grocery store now. And I'm grateful that our grocery stores in Tacoma have now, limiting the number of people who can go in. And so there's nowhere that's not impacted, and there's nothing is as usual. And frankly, people keep calling it the new norm. And I think it's going to be a long time. And who knows if ever that we get back to what we used to know in January or February, the life we used to know. Things are going to be very different continuing moving forward. And so it's affecting people's mental health, people's physical health. It's affecting their ability to care for themselves and their families. Again, there's not anyone who's not affected and touched by this.
Can you share any information that you have now on the number of cases directly in Tacoma, and if it is yet impacting the infrastructure of the health community down there? Do you have that information? Do you know in any kind of reliable form which communities are being impacted or where this is showing up at in Tacoma?
Showing up all over Tacoma. I do know that. I'm just checking to get the latest numbers. I haven't seen the latest numbers just for a couple days. I can tell you the numbers of reported cases are going down, but certainly we have not totally flattened the curve. So in Pierce County, right now we have 1,022 cases and 24 deaths. In Tacoma specifically, we have 360 of those cases and 7 deaths. The majority of people who have been affected the majority of people who've been affected are people, and when I look at the percentages, are people really between 50 and 59. That's 20% of our overall cases in Pierce County. But obviously those who are in the category, the number of people who have died from COVID, 90% of those are in the 60 and over category. So it is, while we're seeing younger people that are getting COVID, their recovery is much greater. And this is what we're hearing nationally. Their recovery continues to be much greater than those who are older.
And Mayor Woodards, for a while, one of the reasons why I was advocating on behalf of South Seattle early in this is because we have such a diverse community, and we weren't getting any numbers out of our community, and we had people in our community, in particular in the Black community, who were under the assumption that they could not even get coronavirus. Early on, members of our Asian communities were experiencing discrimination and hate and bias. Do you know, are there statistics available yet out of those who are dying? Because we've seen in major cities that it's been disproportionately Black. Do you know, out of those who have died in Tacoma, what their ethnicity, what the culture is?
I don't know about the deaths. We don't have that information, but and we weren't reporting race at first, but now the state is reporting race, and our county, our health department, was just able yesterday to release stats on race. Now, at the state level, they are only to account race. They can only account for race for 50% of the cases. In Pierce County, we think that we know about that the data we have is about 70% of the people who have gotten it, and who have COVID. I can tell you that, again, just in Pierce County, which is the county that Tacoma is in, while African Americans in Pierce County make up 7.1% of the population, they make up 11.2% of the confirmed cases. For Hispanics, they represent 6.6% of Pierce County population, but they make up 14.7% of the confirmed cases. So it is now very clear in Pierce County that people of color are the ones who are being impacted more by the coronavirus. And I would add to that, also community colors, we know, will be more at risk because they're more at risk for health disparities like heart disease, like diabetes. So that stands to reckon why some of these numbers are as high as they are. So overall, whites in Pierce County make up 65% of Pierce County, but only make up 58% of the confirmed cases.
Mayor Woodards, do you have any information, or have you been given any information about how testing will work? Is there anything that you can share with your community in regards to when it will happen, if it will happen, when it will become available? I don't know. How does that get to you? Is there anything that you can access to share information with us about testing?
Yeah, not necessarily the most hopeful information, but it's so funny. I've been on calls with mayors from across the country, And across the country, testing is an issue. There are not enough tests, but we're saving our tests to test those who actually exhibit symptoms, or saving tests to be able to go into nursing care facilities and test everybody. So the ability for me, who I feel perfectly fine today, if I just wanted to make sure I haven't been exposed, I couldn't go get a test. And that is still definitely the problem. Widespread testing is still an issue. We were fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago to partner with Homeland Security and Health and Human Services from the federal level. We had a drive-through testing site at the Tacoma Dome where we were able to test almost 1,000 people in 5 days. And so we've been able to do some stuff like that. But I will tell you, across the country, there are pieces of the test kit that are hard to come by. And that's why getting the testing kits are really difficult. But I want to be very clear to your listening audience. No one can sell you a test kit. Don't meet anybody in a parking lot. And don't think that you can buy your own test kit and test yourself. Don't give into that phone call, any of that. That's all false. If you feel like you have the symptoms, call your doctor or call a healthcare facility. Don't go in, but call. So that's, I mean, we know that the only way that we're really gonna be able to return to normal is to be able to test as many people as possible. And it's gonna take some time to be able to ramp up for that.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. My guest joining me is the City of Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards. We are talking about the impact of the coronavirus on the City of Tacoma, and also Mayor Woodards is giving us information on Pierce County. One of the things about your community in Tacoma that makes it unique, a couple of things that I'd like you to talk about. There's a large military presence, and then there's also a detention center down there. Can you talk about how the interaction between those particular communities, the military community, and then also the detention center, in regards to how this impacts and affects Tacoma as opposed to some cities that, again, there isn't a military presence, and maybe there isn't the detention center where you would have people coming from all over the place. And then the issues that we are looking at now are folks from the detention centers and from other prison populations being released back into the public.
Yeah, so let's take the military first. So we do have a military population here, and we are working closely, our county and we are working closely with our military partners. The numbers I gave you do not include those on the military base who have contracted COVID. Because they are a part of the federal government, we are not tracking their numbers. They are not giving them to us, but we are providing any kind of support that we can. They have their own medical system and all of that. So they are managing their COVID response. As it relates to the federal detention center that is here in Tacoma, we are on the phone with ICE at least 2 to 3 times a week, continuing to check in with them, continuing to monitor the situation. We have been told that there are no cases at the ICE facility, and that has, or I should say, there's a lack of confirmed positive cases, and we've had that collaborated by health authorities. I do understand that earlier this week, ICE released some information to our federal delegation saying that they would be releasing some people from the ICE processing center, and we are happy about that. It's in our community, but it is a federal detention center owned and operated by a private business. We are one of very few in the country. The only other one I now know about is in Colorado, who has a federal detention center that is privately owned and privately run. In most cases, they are in a publicly ran facility, and they're private and they're privately running it. Because of the way we're set up here, that means that we, in fact, we have to treat them like any other business in Tacoma. We have to respond like any other business in Tacoma. So if they were to have an outbreak, it would be, that would fall on the city of Tacoma. Mm-hmm. So that's why we are in close communication with them. Our health department works with them on some level, but has very little authority. And we're just trying to stay in contact and work as closely with them as they will let us, and as we can, to make sure that they're taking care of, number one, of the detainees who are there, and they're doing right by them, but then they're also doing right by what we require of them in the city of Tacoma.
You know, Mayor Woodards, I did get some questions from folks who wanted me to ask you, and I knew this time was going to be going by really quickly. And one of the questions that I was asked was, what's going to happen with the musicians and artists and nightlife in Tacoma? That was the question, and I, among others, but I do want to get a couple in. So that is the question that I'll ask of you. The question was, what's going to happen with the musicians, the artists, and the nightlife in Tacoma?
So a year and a half ago, I was incredibly proud of Tacoma when they passed what we call Tacoma Creates, which means citizens of Tacoma agreed to tax themselves 0.1% for the arts in Tacoma. Right now, we have money that we are getting ready to give out to local artists and organizations during this COVID time. Now, we're going to have to do a lot of education, because people are going to wonder, how can you give money to artists? How can you give that much money to artists and only give $1 million to small businesses? Well, the citizens of Tacoma voted for this tax and voted to tax themselves. And we can only spend it on what they decided it would be spent on, and that's on arts in Tacoma. So I am delighted to say that in the next week or so, we will be rolling out that fund and getting money out to our local artists to sustain them during this time. And then also working with them to see how we can use their current craft in this COVID-19 environment, use it to help our families and people who live in Tacoma, whether that is Facebook Live or trying to work out how we can get some of this stuff on our TV channel. But how can we get people who wanted to do, paint classes in the middle of the park in summertime for kids to go online and do paint classes, and kids can paint at home. So we're trying to be creative in this time on how we can get those artists who have made plans to do things but can't do the things that they actually plan to do because of the environment that we're in.
And so I don't know if you can tell me, but now I'm curious, how much money will be available for artists, musicians, et cetera?
So I think the number that we're working with right now is about $2 million.
Okay. And just on behalf of other artists, being an artist is a business also. I know that sometimes
absolutely it is.
We don't remember that. We enjoy it, but being an artist is being a business. It's the music business. Mayor Wood, and what the vibrancy that art and artists provides to our communities, I think defines our communities in a lot of times. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
Mayor Woodards, I want to give you, there's just so much we could talk about, and I knew we were not going to have much time. So the way I'll just put this is, I wanted to talk about education. I wanted to talk about, what I'll just do is I'll give you the opportunity for final words here to say what you want to say to the members of your community and to everyone else listening right now.
Well, so let me just give a couple of resources because I'd love to go through all the things we're doing in Tacoma, because we're doing things for small businesses. We're giving out loans for small businesses. We're postponing payments on B&O, but rather than go into all of that. So if you are a small business in Tacoma, whether you are a sole proprietor or you have 1,000 employees, please check out our makeittacoma.org page. Again, all one word, makeittacoma.org. And that's where we're putting all of our resources for businesses, whether it's technical assistance to submit your SBA grant or it's just questions. That's a good place to go and get help. If you are a nonprofit in Tacoma, cityoftacoma.org, we are doing a lot of work with our nonprofits here in Tacoma. We are continuing to fund. We normally do competitive funding every 2 years, and we're not going to make nonprofits go to competitive funding for 2021 because we want them to be able to get through COVID-19 and get back up on their feet. We are still paying our nonprofits even in this time of them not being able to deliver all of their services because they are dealing with our most vulnerable. Later this week, the early part of next week, you will hear us rolling out. We will be doing a rental assistance program. We have $1.2 million and are entering to a contract with someone who will administer our rental assistance program here in Tacoma. If you're having a problem paying your utility bills, Tacoma Public Utilities has set up $1 million fund to help people with their utility bill payments. Right now, we've received almost 8,000 applications here in Tacoma for that, but are looking for ways to put more money into that fund. So want to let people know that that fund exists as well. There is so much. We are still picking up the trash. We're still doing everything that we need to do. Our police department is still out there. We are still making calls. We are patrolling business districts because business districts are closed. We're going through business districts more often and reaching out and talking to small businesses. So those are just some things that we're doing. I want to remind people of two numbers. If you have a problem in the city of Tacoma and you have a question or you don't know how to get help, 311. While City Hall is closed, you can still dial 311, get a human being and get an answer to your question or get pointed in the right direction. Be patient when you call because we're getting a lot of calls. And so just have a little patience. I know that that's really difficult, but we will get to you and we can answer your call. The other thing is that if you're looking for services in Tacoma, United Way still has their 211 line. And you can call into that 211 line and they can also point you in the direction of services. So, I mean, that's just a quick overhaul of where you can go to get assistance and where you can call. The other thing I'll say is if you see people who you believe are not abiding by the orders that we have, please don't call 911. Please call our non-emergency number so that we can get out and educate people. We are not writing tickets in Tacoma. We are not looking for people who are breaking the rules, but we certainly want to use it as an opportunity to educate folks. If you're driving to work and you're an essential worker, you don't need a note from your boss. We're not pulling people over and asking those kinds of questions for people who are worried about that. And then finally, I'll just get to the real human side of this. I said it earlier, this is a really difficult time. Unprecedented is the word that we all use. And I don't know after this time what could happen that it will need to be used again, but this really is an unprecedented time. And there are going to be moments where it's a little bit darker, and there'll be moments when it's lighter. But while the sun is shining today, it will shine again in all of our hearts and all of our homes. And we will get through this, and we will get through this together. We all have an opportunity during this time to be a superhero. So often when we watch cartoons, we think about superheroes who jump in and they come to rescue people and save lives. What we can see from the governor's orders and staying at home, we are saving lives. So we all have responsibilities as superheroes to stay at home, to abide by the orders. If you go out for a walk, be respectful. If you are walking and you're a young person and you see an elderly person walking, cross the street. Just be respectful and compassionate to one another during this time. And like I said, we will come out on the other end of this stronger because we fought together, and we will be a better community for it. So I will just leave you with that. And again, Tony, thank you so much for what you do.
Well, thank you. And I am trying to be respectful of your time. And I know that we're over time. And just a couple of things you brought up. I just wanted for people, when it comes to emergency services, police, fire, are there any services that are going to be cut back, or what should people anticipate? I know that in Seattle, you can no longer go to the fire department to get your blood pressure checked and some of those things. If there is any information that you'd like to share in regards to those emergency services, if everything is still up and running, or if there are things that have been cut back. And then my second question was, Mayor Woodards, before I spoke to you, and last week actually I spoke to members of the community of Tacoma, and one of the things that they said was they were thrilled with the response of the community, the members of the Tacoma community, the institutions, the service providers of the Tacoma community, how they had stepped up during this particular time. And if that is something that you've noticed and that you've seen, that you feel as well. So those are the two things: emergency services, and then again, I had heard, that the community members of Tacoma and the institutions had also done an excellent job of stepping up when needed to.
Thank you, Tony. And you try to get so much in really quickly because you've got to move on to the next thing. But thank you for those two questions. They will go nicely into what I want to say. Number one, we closed our substations because they were manned by volunteers, but our police still operate out of them. So you can't go to a substation in Tacoma, but you can still go to headquarters. Headquarters is still open. So if you need to get to the police department, you can still go in physically to the police department. Interestingly enough, I have not heard that we stopped taking blood pressure, but I would guess that we did. And that's really funny. That's a question. The thing about me is I'm transparent, and I'm going to go ask that question. But for the safety of our firefighters, that would be a great idea. As it relates to what people have stepped up to do, one of the things people ask me is what makes Tacoma so great. And I always talk about the fact that we've got a gorgeous waterfront. We can see Mount Rainier, great neighborhoods. We've got all these good things, museums, universities. But what makes Tacoma Tacoma are the people who live here. And I have been inspired by what our citizens are doing. Yesterday, I learned that we've got restaurants downtown who are donating 100 lunches 2 or 3 times a week and delivering them to hospitals. We've got people who have worked out a system with their neighbor to put a sign in the window if they need something. We have got people who are putting teddy bears in windows so that parents can take their kids on a walk and call it a teddy bear parade. We've got neighbors who are chalking on their sidewalk incredible messages like they're doing across the country. We've got churches who are stepping up and doing grocery shopping for seniors. We're delivering medicine. We've got people who are delivering medicine to our seniors. There's just a host of things that people are doing that make me so proud of this community. And I would be so remiss, and this is why I said thank you to you, if I didn't say thank you to all of our first responders for doing an amazing job. And when I say first responders, we used to think that was just fire and police, right? It was just firefighters and police officers. And they are absolutely our first responders, but that category has expanded. So to our firefighters and our police and our medical staff, when we say medical staff, whether you're the doctor or the receptionist who answers the phones or the janitor who cleans the floors, all of that's a first responder. We've also got first responders like our grocery store workers. First responders like our bus drivers, people who are providing the much needed services that we need during this time. All of them, a huge thank you from the very bottom of my heart for what they're doing, and to everybody who is coping and helping during this time.
Well, Mayor Woodards, I wish you much success, and thank you for taking your time to join us. And I hope that you know that you can use Rainier Avenue Radio as a resource anytime that you want to share information. Sometimes folks don't read all the press releases or all the information that's coming their way,
Yeah.
but they will take time to take a listen. And please feel free to use us as a resource anytime you want to share information. And I know your people's told me she's very busy. She's only got 30 minutes, and I blew that out of the water. So
Look, they've been texting me for another call. I said I'll be there in a minute.
so I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for taking the time here with us to share with our community, and I'll let you get back to what you have to do. And again, I know that there are better times down the road. And just on a personal note, I think the members of Tacoma are very happy with the person who is in charge of, to an extent, their destiny as we move forward. And sometimes the right person is in the right place. So good luck to you.
Great. Thank you, Tony B. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. I look forward to coming back soon.
Okay.
All right.
That's it. That's about all the time. It's me, Tony B., your host of StreetBeat. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be talking to leaders of the Asian community who will be here to tell us what's going on in the Asian community during this time, not only in Seattle but statewide. We'll also be talking to the mayor of Yakima. We'll talk to some folks from Spokane, and that will be during 1 to 3 during our regular coronavirus show. Until then, it's me, Tony B., your host of StreetBeat, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
Tony B., thanks. So good to see you.
Awesome to see you and talk to you as well.